All right, welcome to patch 14.21 of League of Legends. My name is Chris, and join with me is my patch review duo partner, Jason.
Hey man, good to be back as always for the patch that League Wiki forgot. This is nowhere on League Wiki, so why don't you tell everyone about what we're doing instead this week?
Okay, well, first up, we got this new website. Hopefully, we won't have to use this for more than a patch or two while League Wiki gets its shit together. So, first up, we have to thank Game Leap and then our author, Jerry Minkova, and that's a girl, I suppose, for our
Uh,
patch. It's in
yeah.
the. I checked her credentials earlier for this new format we have here, and it's not too complicated. We'll get right into the patch notes here. It's kind of a bit
Jerry
more.
Rafferty's name might have been spelled that way too, so we don't know.
It's a bit more
Jerry, whatever
vibrant.
pronouns you use, we salute you.
Okay.
So yeah, 14.21. It's a pretty small patch. Seems like they're doing a lot of kind of like high level play focused small buffs, nerfs, and then we've got that little Swain rework that we'll talk about in line or at the end.
uh, Whenever it comes up, it's pretty exciting.
All right, stay tuned for that.
All right. So first up, apparently we're gonna talk about all the buffs first, and then the nerfs, and then I guess net neutral changes, and then maybe some stuff to the mechanic side of League, because that's just how this table of contents is rolling right now.
Jerry, we're at your mercy here.
All right, let's get right into some champion balance changes. I don't know if they're just these three, but we'll get right into it. First up, we've got Azir, and looks like
Oh, we do have the system changes. There was actually a pretty big one. I don't know if it's in this article or not, but they completely changed the way the bounties work.
oh yeah, that's at the
Okay,
bottom.
it's at the end of this. Okay, so we'll do it at
Yeah,
the end. All
yeah.
right,
If
cool. So
you
let's talk this here. Got a little bit more AD and a little bit more HP regen. This basically looks like it's designed to improve his laning phase. But every time he like stabs you with one of the soldiers, it does his base AD and damage, right?
no,
So this is actually kind of a pretty big buff in my opinion. What do you think?
uh, it is a buff in the sense that it's 4 AD that he didn't have before. It's kind
Hmm.
of not a good buff because, as maybe you didn't hear me, his AD does not get added to his soldiers' attack damage.
Oh, okay, got it. So his
Yeah.
soldiers don't attack you for his AD at all.
No, it's just a flat amount plus a percentage plus a fraction of his on hit effects. So
So what does his AD do?
it doesn't do anything.
Okay.
I mean, if he does a standard auto attack where he zaps someone, but you never see him do that because he's always Wing, so it
Hmm.
doesn't really do anything.
So
I
this
mean,
doesn't really help him that much, except maybe a little bit in lane then,
it's
where
really
he might not have
probably the
soldiers
only
at all.
only time this is probably useful is for him to prep the minions to see us under tower, I imagine.
Yeah, and generally when you're CSing under tower, you don't need any level of AD. It's just gonna be one hit plus two tower shots on the melees, and then two hits plus one tower shot on the ranged.
You'd think so, but if you don't take any of the adaptive force on Shen, you cannot one
Mm-hmm.
hit the caster minions without your Q.
Oh,
If they
interesting,
if they take
interesting.
two shots. So it's not.
The melee minions, I mean,
No, I mean the casters.
the
Yeah,
casters you can never one hit. You have to auto attack them twice.
well, that's what I mean. I'm saying that if the turret
Yeah.
hits them twice,
Okay.
you don't have enough.
The good
Anyway,
Yeah. Soraka also like can't actually like finish off a lot of the minions with a number of turret shots that most champs can.
that makes sense. Suffice to say, if he got one more base AD, he'd probably get another nerf to his soldiers.
We decided to make the cooldown another 3 seconds and provide more windows of opportunity. I know that you think Azir is in a really shitty state. I do still often see him run the late games.
Yeah,
I would agree with you. He's probably weak at most elos, though.
you get to like 6 items, he's still strong. He's just nowhere near as good as
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
for years.
Sure.
and he's way more item dependent now. He had so many more built-in like steroids in his kit, and he's lost everything. Let's not dwell on Azir. Go on forever. He used to be one of my most played champs.
You do have
Next
birds
up,
on the brain.
Next up, we've got some buffs to Corki over here. We've got more bonus true damage from Sheen procs and on-hit damage on his passive. And then we got more base damage and scaling on his Valkyrie burn effect.
Yeah, I know we were talking last time about how while 150 and now 200% bonus AD looks so big on the Valkyrie, you made the good point that that's total if you stand in it the whole time. But for 40% of the damage to be guaranteed now, that's even if you just hit him for one tick. I guess that's an 80% bonus AD ratio on the W. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. You're going to max this last, so it's probably not even that good as you're thinking.
Even now, you would think max it after the E?
I mean, if you want to be more viable in the lane, you have to max the Gatling gun thing second, you know? Because you get more magic pen out of it.
Yeah, I guess so. Like a fully maxed Q will help you clear the waves real quickly.
Oh yeah, you're gonna max that first. I'm just saying there's
There's
not really a world where you're gonna max Valkyrie first or second.
Yeah, I'm looking at like if you fully max the Q to just basically get through lane, can you actually work on maxing the W second to do all this bonus AD damage? You don't think
could.
so?
I just don't think it's a wise investment, honestly.
Yeah, that's understandable. I'd like to see what comes of that, but so that's pretty big. You probably like the 20% true damage on the passive now, because that's kind of the closest thing to magic damage you can get. You know, basically like you can't itemize armor against that 20% bonus.
Honestly, I'm not really going to be happy until he gets like a full revert back to his pre-rework state, because he just had such a beautiful niche where he was.
He was cool. And then the missile barrage, which is really like his bread and butter, like big time power. Dealing 240 now 250 base damage at maximum rank plus 80% bonus AD. That's I think doubled for the big one. So
I don't remember what the big one is.
Sorry?
So I don't remember what the amp is for the big one. I don't think it's just 200. I think each rank has a different one.
Okay.
If this was League Wiki, we could just mouse over it, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Add that to the article, Jerry. But yeah, still, this is really gonna hurt like a bee when you get hit by a big one or even a couple of regular missiles. You know, Corki can be really powerful. So I think these buffs will probably push him back into a lot of pro play, if I had to guess.
Like he's strong, but he's not really differentiatedly strong like he was before. Like now he's basically just a standard AD carry. You know?
Sure, with a ton of really, really powerful like chunk poke damage, with a lot of AD carries don't have. I mean, you can't take that away from him.
Alright, next up we've got Gangplank, and we got a slightly lower cooldown on the barrels and a tad bit more mana to go with it.
Yep, this is mostly just because, you know, his builds have suffered a little bit in the last year or two.
Yeah, honestly, I'd like to see it even go lower than this. I actually think one of his biggest problems that keeps him out of the hands of more casual players is how punishing his stock system is and how high his level has to be for the hit points on his barrels to decay faster. The breakpoints on that are like way too high.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you can, you know, you can almost chunk a team from 100 to 0 as a late game, you know, Gangplank if you hit the triple barrel chain, makes me perfectly fine with only being able to actually set that up once every 35 seconds or so.
Yes,
I mean,
that's true.
It's like an ultimate on a basic skill, and his ultimate is pretty good too.
But that's only like kind of a thing if he has like, you know, 2 or 3 items already.
Sure, but again, with his parley, which is added gold income, it is easier to get to 2 or 3 items. So
It's
yeah,
not
I mean,
like it's
during
not
this
like the
early
old
game,
days where you would use his Q. His Q is explicitly used just to poke people out of the lane now. You don't use his Q to farm anymore, especially when he lost the mana refund. He used to have a half mana refund on last hitting with his Q. He lost
uh-huh.
that a few years ago, and since then, you don't use your Q to farm anymore. You only use it to rush to Sheen and push people out of lane, and he's not really good at that either.
I think regardless,
He's
like
kind of
even
like
if the
discount Pantheon. Do you remember the old Pantheon? He's basically discount pre-rework Pantheon.
well, the old Pantheon was only good in Landing Phase.
Well, you remember how all the old Pantheon would do is just do the lock-on spear throw on you?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Okay.
remember
Well,
that.
that's basically what Gangplank is in the laning
I
phase right now.
see. As punishing as he is to play in Landing Phase, and as much as he can struggle early, like his late game power is ridiculous, and again, I think that the skill requirement and the punishing early game make that fair, and so it's probably fine that he's getting these little buffs to compensate for his builds.
Yeah.
But
If we
he
were
can be
ever
an
to
absolute fucking terror.
if we were ever to one day like start making a series of like tier charts and rank champions by like difficulty, I would
Uh-huh.
put Gangplank in the top 10 most difficult champs to play in the game.
Oh, okay.
I might put him
I
like
I
3 or
think that's a
4 or
reasonable take.
something.
I'd probably have him like just outside the top 10, but I think that's a very reasonable take.
All right, next up, kind of the opposite of what we were just talking about. Now Aurelia is less friendly to the Goober Aurelian players. Now there is no longer like an oops, I did not last hit with my Q cooldown reduction on her ultimate, but to make up for that, now it's even more forgiving to spam. And they did nerf the cooldown or buff the cooldown it slightly, but it doesn't really make up for how much she was getting off from her ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, if it's considered to be a buff, I think particularly the mana cost early on will help on Blade Search.
Oh, that's a
Um, the,
non-factor.
I mean, Aurelius do run out of mana sometimes.
Yeah, but if you probably look at her stats, she probably gains a Blade Surge worth of mana like every 3 or 4 seconds. It's her
Okay.
W and her E
Fair,
that probably
fair, fair.
costs like 100 mana or something.
Also, just 10% extra AD. I mean, obviously she uses kind of a mixed build, not AD AP, but AD, fighter stats, tank stats, whatever.
Uh,
Um,
a change I would
it's
have liked to have seen is
still nice for her.
like a 3, 4, 5% AD buff on the healing she gets by using her Q, because she also heals on hit just like her old Hetan style on her W.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah, I would
That
have
would have been
liked to have
nice.
seen a small buff to that.
That would have been nice, yeah. Um, and as far as the cooldown reduction that she's losing, that was just a passive cooldown bonus on her Q for learning ranks of her R, right?
Yeah, and it used to be as high as
Yeah.
2.5. This has been nerfed before it was removed. When this was 2.5, she was actually pretty accessible for dum dums to kind of pick up, because then it only put her cooldown on like a 3 or 4 second with ability haste, cooldown, even if you screwed it up,
Yep. In fairness, it doesn't take a lot of learning Aurelia to to prep the waves and just take the whole thing out with a series of blade surges.
Well, yeah, it's easy to learn how to farm with Aurelia, but she's not easy to play. There's a very difficult nuance to like playing Aurelia and not just getting blown up right away.
Yeah, she used to be much easier.
I don't think she's as hard as Gangplank, but I would put her like in the top 30, just because it's a lot harder to navigate team fights than people give her credit for.
That's fair.
As
Yeah, you
someone
gotta
who's
do it.
tried to pick her up a few times.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a little bit of the Trashuo thing, where you've got to make sure your leaps are moving to the right places where you're not going to get nailed. All
All
right.
right, let's see our next buff. We've got a long overdue buff to Kale's W, where they finally curtailed this preposterous mana cost on her
Uh-huh.
W that she's had
Yeah,
for
130
years.
was insane.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a lot of movement speed, sure, and the movement speed ratio is probably the biggest one in the game, but I swear to God, I'm like the only person in the entire server that builds KLAP. Everyone else just builds all 5 of like the on-hit items on her, So,
I have to assume this is still your last max, though.
Well, depends on where I'm playing her.
Really?
Yeah.
Where do you play her that you're maxing W second?
Well, here's the thing. Since her rework, I personally think her Q is just garbage. I think her Q really missed the mark on what they intended it to. Like the old Q was just way easier to use, and you knew you were going to get like the shred on it really fast. The new Q, it just has this awkward delay, doesn't really go far enough, and it just doesn't hit a large enough area like Karma's Q. To give an example, I feel like
I
her
think they
Q
made that a
just
little bit smoother.
her Q just feels very awkward to use, especially when you gain a lot more movement speed and attack speed. It almost feels like your Q is lagging behind you when you start becoming and attacking very fast. So
Mm.
I never really ever maxed the Q. Now, you pretty kind of have to max the E. One, because it's free now. It used to cost mana. It never costs mana now. And you get more missing health damage from it. But yeah, to be honest, all of Kale's basic abilities aren't hugely consequential, maxed or unmaxed. So
Yeah, yeah, it's really your passive plus her auto attacking
yeah,
plus her items, obviously.
yeah,
Um,
probably
yeah,
not a lot of
I think
champions I
Kale
would say that
is.
about.
I think Kale is a champion that they kind of had trouble designing correctly. Her rework, which is what she is now, largely did kind of fit into her theme and kind of the ideas of what she was in the first place, but the ideas of what she was in the first place of like this combined like rapid auto attacker and support champion were never kind of a good combination for a league champion. It came from the very early days of league where they were just kind of like copying
Yeah,
things that they saw in other MOBAs, particularly Dota.
I still miss that old Kale. She's always been one of my favorite champs, and I feel like the old Kale could go mid. This Kale can't go mid.
Yeah, I don't think that they would ever release a new champ that looks like she does today. Although Senna is one of the champs that I think is the worst designed, is close to it.
I don't feel like
Definitely
those
not
two
as bad as
champs have
Falco.
a ton in common. All right, next up we got Malphite, and what do we got here? We got 21 more HP. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk about this next.
And okay, still on the buffs. And I guess this is now some kind of bug fix. Slowly delayed.
Well, it was yeah, like the first one is the big one in terms of like the change in gameplay or power. The EQ combo, essentially not being dodgeable and also just getting its damage off quicker. It is a pretty big thing actually. And they're even saying that they're gonna look and see if it overpowers her.
Yeah, she's probably in a good place right now. Honestly, she's like nasty in the late game, and then kind of a joke early on.
Yeah, she can put a lot of pressure on early on, but it's got to be in that like perfect all-in situation, or you just kind of like farm and get your support some more experience.
Okay,
Um,
next up we've got a buff to Keanu's W. This is her Nashor's built-in like AD she does on effect. That's the passive component. The active component of W is where she gains a new Q based on if she's in the river next to a hill or on flat terrain. This is simply the on-hit attack damage portion.
yeah, yeah, nice pointing that out. And yeah, I mean, Kiana, I think as a burst assassin, and particularly one that doesn't get quite as much use out of some of the traditional like burst assassin items, has struggled. She used to be really powerful. And essentially, like, the one thing that she's been able to do well recently is blow people up with her ultimate into a chain. And then they recently really nerfed her ultimate a lot, so she couldn't really do anything well. This is the long overdue buff, in my opinion. And it's good that they, I think, instead of just giving her all the blow up potential back in her ultimate, kind of the on hit damage, the way that she kills people there is a chain of several very quick, very precise, like you got to aim stuff correctly and leap in the correct directions attacks. So this is kind of the harder way to get kills, and they're making that more rewarding. So I like this.
Yeah, I don't really have much of an opinion on it. I haven't really seen enough of her lately, but she always
I
seems
think
kind of.
Shiny is even more help than this, honestly.
She always reminds me kind of like Fizz, where so much of her damage is basically just uninteractive. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. I actually think she's one of the more interactive, like, first assassins in the game.
Well, to each his own.
I guess, yeah. Are you thinking, like, once she stuns you with her ultimate, or are you thinking of, like, the normal, like, trading combos?
Either one, honestly. I mean,
Okay.
all of her stuff is so fast. If she starts with her Q or her ultimate, you're basically just locked into a series of events. You know.
Yeah, I mean, most of it is dodgeable, though. It's like, she only can, take the Terror Shape from the river one time, and the rest of her combo, she's actually gotta hit you as you're moving around and trying to hit her back.
Well, that's the thing. The hitbox on her stuff is like so wide.
It's generous, yeah.
Yeah.
It's generous. Alright, then we got, Sivir, who I think has just struggled in general a lot. A little bit more base AD, and a little bit, okay, so this is a bunch of numbers changing because they've changed it from total AD to bonus AD. But all you need to know about this is it is more damage at every point in the game on her boomerang blade. That's the Q, not the W auto modifier. It's the Q that goes back and forth.
Yeah. Ever since they made this so you like have to build crit for it to be super strong, it's been kind of weak.
Yeah, I just really think she's been a little bit of a weak champion ever since they gave her such short range. And
Uh,
she's had periods where she's, according to the numbers, been good. But I've just never seen her as one of the better ADCs. Like, she can do her thing, just not as well as most of the other ones.
I don't think they ever changed her auto attack range.
Yeah, when they, I think when they gave her, like, the mini rework, like the W that, almost infinitely, keeps bouncing back and forth between the minion wave. I think they made her a shorter range ADC.
Uh, she's already only like 550 or something.
Yeah, I think she's like 500 now.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Talon, and we got a damage buff on the bigger portion, the return portion, which does a larger amount than the send out part of this ability. This is kind of one of those abilities like Echo's Q, where you just throw it out there and it just always kills the whole wave every time.
Yeah, pretty much. Now it'll kill the whole wave even more. This will help us fighting. I think that a lot of the burst assassins got hurt just by all the item changes recently, which are supposed to make tanks better and burst less bursty. So when you really need that one combo, champs like Kiana and Talon are hurting.
Alright, next up, last two buffs here. We've got some more movement speed for Teemo. That's cool.
They
And
gave him his
then,
old laugh back too.
and then we got some extra health.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I think the extra movement speed, like, he can really be a little sucker that chases you down. Obviously, once he takes damage, move quick, I think, goes away. So this is not good for escapes, but very, very good for chasing you down, like the little fucker that he is.
Well, he always gets the passive, doesn't he? I don't think he loses the passive if he gets hit.
When he gets hit, he doesn't lose the passive. Okay.
I don't think he loses it. He just loses the. I don't know.
I guess if he has 28% more movement speed than usual, like you'd just never be able to catch him.
Probably just notice it because everyone has to max this last to get by the laning phase, or he's even more of a non-factor.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, like the big buff to his active movement speed. Definitely gonna help chasing you down when he sneaks up and finds the advantage on you. What a clown. Look, I don't like having Teemos on my team. But they've given him enough little buffs over the last few years that he's not one of the worst few champions in the game anymore.
I would take him over Shaka, but it'd be I'd have to think about it.
And then Zaya, the last buff we got.
Would you rather have Teemo or Jace as your top laner?
Ooh, good question. I'd rather have Teemo at this point.
Hmm.
And Jace is a little bit better than he used to be too, but he still sucks. And most of the people that play him still suck.
Yeah, but
One of
Jace
the really
is-
good things that I think Teemo is kind of underrated for is I think his ability to draw out the game has actually become really useful. The fact that it's hard to close out a game against a Teemo that is destroying your minion whiffs. In addition to just how important split pushing is now, and the fact that he can actually do it pretty well, I think makes him, I hate to say it, a valuable champion in some ways.
maybe. I feel like Jace
Still
is
the
probably going to help you more in a team fight, maybe.
Still, the single worst champion to have on your team is definitely Nidalee.
Well, I didn't bother asking you that.
Yeah. Well, I had to take a pot shot at her anyway.
And then lastly, we got a buff to the damage that's repeated while Zaya's W is active when she gets movement speed for hitting people. These are the little secondary bolts that fly out.
Yeah. I mean, look, 5% extra damage while it's active is, nothing to sneeze at.
I'd honestly
It's
say that this is probably the strongest buff of all of them right here. This is basically like...
every single buff in this patch.
Yeah, I mean, this is essentially the
Ooh.
same as increasing like the critical strike multiplier on Infinity Edge.
I mean, I'm looking through it. You're kind of making a good point. I don't know. Kiana's bonus damage on Q, going to 20% bonus AD, I think is significant. Yeah, you're making an interesting point though. This is 5% extra damage during that window, so good for her. Have you found Zaya to be struggling in your games?
No, I actually think she's pretty strong. I don't think she's like unbalanced. I never thought she was unbalanced, but I actually think
Average.
I think she's pretty strong. I think she's of the hyper carries, she is definitely not lacking in the late game, to say the least.
Absolutely. Even early on, like she hits you with a bind with several feathers, that damage comes out quickly.
Yeah, plus I think her little signature of the pull the feathers back thing, I think it's been buffed a couple times.
I always think I'm like just outside the cone when she pulls it back and I get hit, and I'm like, oh crap.
Last few times I've seen her like get ahead in a number of games, she's really just chopped up people that I wouldn't have thought she'd do as well against years ago.
Yeah, she's a fun champion.
I never really got around to liking her. She's one of the only 80 carries I probably wouldn't play.
I see.
I don't know, something about her
Is
is just...
Azir the only worthy bird to you?
Azir,
Would you play Nevia?
no, I like her design. She just,
Uh-huh.
personally, just, she doesn't seem very interesting to me. Like, I don't like Aphelios either, full disclosure. I also don't like Samira, pretty much all of them I'll play other than those. Oh, I don't like Callista. Yeah, I think I'd play every other one of them, though, other than those four.
Draven?
Yeah, I play some Draven. I used to play a lot of Draven in the old days. So, yeah, I'm happy to play Draven. I don't mind doing the mini game. I can play a pretty good Draven.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Well, it's definitely not my preference because I think he's also a bit of a gamble. If I'm going to play like a ranked game, I'm going to play something more consistent like Lucian or Corki or Ezreal or something that I'm more consistent with. Graves. Alright. Next up, we've got the champion nerfs. First up, we got Aurelion Sol, the most broken 1v5 champ in the entire game.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, you said that was Hui. My bad. For a minute, I thought you... I forgot. You said that about Hui when you came out.
I mean, Aurelion Sol is definitely a champ that can 1v4 your team. with no support or anything.
So we got 20 less health, and then probably like the 5th or 6th nerf his E is gone. I'm
I
old
like
enough
this.
to remember that when he first came out, his E had like 120 or 140% AP ratio on it. Now it does last a
Over
long
100.
time.
That was
So,
100. Okay.
oh no, it was
Yeah,
way over
I
100.
really like this nerf. This is just such like unnecessary extra power in his kit. The fact that he can not only like burn a wave, but also deal a lot of damage to you with the ability that is mostly meant to just suck you into the center and provide the execute. This is a great nerf, and I give Riot their flowers for reducing the AP on the Singularity.
Yeah, I guess you're right. As long as they don't touch all of like the Stardust scalings or his Q, he's probably still really strong.
Yeah.
Alright, next up, we've got some more nerfs for the rest of this shit. We got less mana, less health shred on the detonation on Brand's passive, and then a more expensive Q.
Yeah,
As
Riot said
someone
that
who
he.
finds them as like an amateur Brand support player, what do you think of this?
Well, I mean, Riot said that he's performing well in all roles, which I don't know. When was the last time you actually saw Brian succeed mid? Because it's been a while for me.
That would be about probably 7 or 8 years.
2017.
Probably the first couple of years he was in the game. I have not seen a Brand go mid in ages.
Oh, I've definitely seen some. I've been that brand mid a few times. It's rarely successful. So I don't like their take here, and I don't think that increasing the mana costs was a good move. I think they really should have been targeting support brand more than laner brand here.
And what would
Uh,
you nerf on support Brand?
I think probably I'd nerf the stun by a quarter second.
Oh man, you can't do that.
Quarter second.
Oh man, you got to keep that. I think the only thing
The other thing you could do to actually target support brand would be to have his early rank damage numbers, maybe on the skills that he's not maxing quickly, maybe his E, for example. You could take down the rank 1 damage, and then have it grow to to what it is now, so that laner brand who has higher levels isn't going to be hurt as much.
well, my opinion is I think Brand is one of the most balanced champs in the game. I think he is strong. I think he's one of the best champs from behind.
Yeah.
But
I think he's like
if
too annoying to go against at support versus like he's just not good enough quality as a laner. But I cut you off. Go on.
I think the only thing that's starting to get kind of sus about him is that range that his E conflagrate thing spreads to. That thing's
Yeah.
getting a bit silly.
I agree. It's pretty much the easiest skill in the world to hit someone with. They could be 400 or 500 units behind the wave, and it still spreads as long as you use the E on an ablaze target. Anyway, I don't like that they decreased the percent max health on his passive when you 3-shot someone. But these are not terrible nerfs either. Like I think if you were good with them, you're still gonna be fine with them here.
Yeah, if they were going to nerf this, I would have liked to have seen them increase the AP ratio. But I
Yeah,
guess
or
that
even
would be
just like the rank
counterintuitive.
based damage.
Alright, next up, we've got some nerfs to Camille of all people. You don't see this champion nerfed a lot because she's so unpopular. We've got 20 less health, and then on her W, for some reason this is getting nerfed a lot. Sometimes you take this first into a difficult matchup. You max this first, I mean. So we're losing about 40 damage off the top end of this.
Yeah,
It's
and then
pretty
even
big.
worse, 15% less bonus AD on her hook shot, meaning that her successful spike combo is going to be a lot less dangerous.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a head scratcher to me. People tell me that Camille, is a really strong champion right now. And has been like S tier on a lot of the the competitive tier lists. Every time I see a Camille in my game, she struggles.
That's
Every
because
single time I see one.
there's just so few people that actually can play her well because she's such a finely tuned scalpel of a champ. And if you try to play her like a club, you're just going to fall on your face.
Yeah, and even if you do, like, there's still only a narrow success scenario if you need to, like, you need to do at least pretty well in the early game. You can't get behind. You know, her on-hit damage, especially now that there's no base, you know, if you're behind and you're losing your HP in the fights, becomes even worse. Like, it's just so useless when you're behind. You know, plus you're in there, the cage, and you can't get away. It's just like, the success case needs to be, you do pretty well in the early game. And then you find a lot of kind of like duels, because, you know, Camille can't 1v3, 1v4. She just can't. And then you also need to just have your team be able to support your split push game. Because that's mostly what she's good at. She's good at dueling one person and then getting out of there with her second hook shot before the enemies come catch her. It's just such a narrow success case, and it's so weird to me to see her rank so high competitively when all I see in my games is Camille struggling.
Yeah, that's if someone has the balls to pick her.
Yeah, you don't see her too much played, which is a good thing, because when she does, she struggles.
Alright, next we've got less armor for Elise.
Yep, it's about 10 less armor at level 18. It's the same at level 1. You know, mostly you're playing Elise for the early and mid-game power. So this isn't going to hurt as much as it might hurt a late-game champion that was losing 10 armor. But, yeah, still kind of sad to see. Elise is another one of those champions you almost never see played.
Yep. Then we've
my
got...
theory on that is that, you know, not only is she a little bit hard to use effectively at low and mid elos, but also she's a shapeshifter, which makes her more complex to learn, and then also being kind of a villainous figure and not like a sexy, you know, man or woman. You know, there's just not a lot of like appeal to want to pick her up.
Pretty sure she's supposed to be a female.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, like, you know, like you think like the most popular champs are going to be like sexy women, but also kind of like the sexy looking men. I'm not saying that Elise might be a man. She's definitely a female.
I think that
you know what, she could be anything she wants to be.
I think that, like Lee Sin, she's extremely difficult to navigate in the late game. Except
right,
I think she's even harder than Lee Sin to get something out of in the late game.
You're probably right about that, but think about how much more popular Lee Sin is than Elise.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Lee Sin's a staple of the game. But, yeah, I think Elise is just incredibly difficult to play positively in the late game.
You just add an N to Elise's name, you can rearrange it into Lee Sin.
Uh-huh.
Great analysis here on the Casey View.
Next up, we've got Fiddlesticks, and the flat health shred on his Q is taking a small little hit. And if they were already feared by his passive and you got them with the Q again, this does double damage. So that's also taking a bit of a hit.
Yeah, I mean, just the amount of CC that Fiddlesticks brings during the fear is so annoying. I don't know that I would have called him like overly strong and needing of a nerf, but I'm kind of happy to see it, to be honest.
Yeah, if he gets nerfed here, they should just make his W more obnoxious. It's really just the only...
anything about Fiddle more obnoxious. He is obnoxious enough, man.
Yeah, I don't like the idea that he's basically just an ult bot, though. I like him to be actually be able to do something when he's not using his ult.
Yeah, I mean, there's some champions that are designed largely around their ults, right? And then others that are just designed to have more consistent combos. He's in the former camp, but I think some people like that. Like, you know, I mean, look, you play Shen, right? He's largely an ult bot. I mean, obviously he's very powerful in the early game with the dueling, but after that...
He's a way better duelist when his... That's the thing. The difference between Shen and Fiddlesticks is Shen's ultimate isn't like a closer or to help him kill someone. Fiddlesticks' his ultimate is his kill potential. you know? Like, Shen has like so much dueling potential
Mhm.
outside of
I
his
mean,
ultimate.
the gems that are designed to do two different things. Yeah. Um, you look at Karthus. Karthus is kind of an alt bot.
I do think that's true of him, but his they make his Q so fast that it kind of supplements that. Whereas I don't think
Yeah,
Fiddlesticks' W is enough to say the
that's
same.
fair, right? A lot of what Fiddlesticks does is just kind of disengage fights for his team or get away unless he's ready to pop in with his ult. All right, then we got Galio, another powerful ult guy. Um,
Yeah,
but he can be very good at engaging fights even without it. Less base mana is going to make it a lot harder to wave clear early on.
well, it won't really be a problem because his popularity is probably at an all-time low.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to tell everybody for a 14th time how much you want them to give the flash taunt combo back?
I mean, it's a start. He's gotten like a plethora of nerfs. There was
Yeah.
like a patch where he got a bunch of giant like AP ratios that he still has,
Hmm.
but it's just you can't really tap into that without being like a laughing stock in the laning phase. And one of the
Yeah.
biggest things I bitch about is just how impossible it is for him to go top and how he doesn't really achieve what he's supposed to be able to get away with mid lane. So he basically is relegated to this kind of Leona like support phase, or you just don't see him at all.
No, you definitely still see him sometimes mid. He's just uncommonly played.
Well, he doesn't really counter anyone that he's like supposed to be able to fight, and he's basically all the other melee mid
It's
laners
not about the
can.
lane strength. It's about getting to the team fights and turning those around.
Well, yeah, I just don't really think he's really good at that either.
I hear you. He definitely used to be better when his ultimate cooldown wasn't like 210 seconds or whatever it is. All right, and then we've got a nerf to Gwen. She's doing somewhat significantly less damage per AP with every hit that she makes. It's her 1,000 cuts passive.
Yeah, this is probably the one thing in her kit they shouldn't have probably touched. This is kind of what allows her to scale and be kind of the late game, like, chop suey machine that she
Yeah, I mean,
turns
she is
into.
still taking 1% of their health with each hit as a base. So even if she's behind, she has that baseline like reliability in the late game. But yeah, I agree with you. This
This
feels
is
harsh.
yeah, this is not where they should have nerfed her if they wanted to give her a harder time. Should have just dicked with her base stats or made her
I was
E
gonna say
give
longer
slight.
cooldown on her W.
That thing's already super long, and that thing's already been nerfed like 4 times. If they wanted to take some of the attack speed off of her E, that would have been okay. Is they can't touch the passive, they can't touch the Q again, and they can't touch the ultimate. Everything else they can mess with if they want.
All right, then we got Hui. We've got a nerf to his QQ combo that he can QQ about. Is this the one that
This
is
is
this
the
the one that kind of like opens up as a circle and then deals damage a couple seconds later?
no, his QQ is Karma's Q.
Oh, okay, that one.
Yeah, and that's basically all it is. It's just Karma's Q.
Yeah, so 5% less AP. They didn't touch the base damage or the max HP ratio, and then 1 second longer cooldown on all of his skills that start with E.
Hmm, that's cool.
Uh,
That's where all
those are
of
mostly his
his
utility skills, so I think that's kind of a a fair place to touch away a little bit of power from him.
E skills are his CC.
Yeah,
His W are all of his goofy movement and shield stuff.
okay, yeah. The W's are the supportive ones. When I said utility, I meant the CC, but you're right. I should have specified that. So yeah, I think these are fair places to touch away a little bit of power. I think he is a powerful champion. I've seen him play it a lot recently, and just the amount of damage that he can put out from such a long distance and just surprise you with the spike.
He has his moments, but I
Mhm.
never thought he was overpowered.
I still think he's a little bit overpowered, to be quite honest. I mean, he's definitely like beatable. Like you stomp him early, it's gonna be a very long time before he becomes relevant. But And even if he gets very powerful, right, you can still, with some ease, if you have the right champs, lock him down and kill him. But if you can't do that, like, he puts out insane amounts of damage at long distance to your entire team.
Yep,
He's kind of like an Aphelios.
I suppose. Then next up, we've got a nerf to Kaisa, and this is basically just all the scaling on her on-hit effect.
Yeah,
We've
there's
got
some yellow and green, meaning that like a couple numbers went up, but overall this is a clear nerf to kind of the bonus damage she's getting from the on-hits.
Yep, this was a powerful skill for a very long time. She got so much built-in damage from this.
Yeah, I mean, she already gets so much from her items, her upgrades. The W deals a lot of damage as well. I'm fine with her losing, a moderate amount from her passive here.
I suppose.
She's a strong champ.
Then next up, we've got a rare change to Karthus's
Yeah.
ultimate here. Now it does 5% less AP. Yeah. This is something that should probably never be touched again.
Yeah, I don't think this is a big deal at all, right? Like, if you have, if you're gonna lose, for example, 40 damage from this nerf, that means that you had 800 AP. And if you have 800 AP, even after this nerf, you're dealing 1,060 damage to the entire enemy team with your ult. I think it's fine to reduce this to 70%. I'm a little bit surprised that they felt that they needed to nerf Karthus in the first place. Like, most of the time when I see him in my games, he does okay, dies a lot, puts out a lot of damage. Definitely a threat late game.
I feel like no one really plays him the right way.
I see him probably about average amount for champs. I probably see him in one out of like every 15 or 20 games. You think there's probably 160, 170 champs in league at this point? Like, that's batting average.
Then next up, we've got some nerfs to Kassadin here. These are kind of depressing, honestly.
That's a champ I don't see too much.
His base numbers are already so pathetic to make up for the fact that he's supposed to scale really hard from these ratios.
Yeah, and in fairness, right? As long as you can use your ultimate every second and a half or whatever it is to to put on the AP ratio that you get with that, it's not so bad that he's being reduced to moderate numbers. But yeah, like this is definitely going to make his mid game harder as he's starting to build AP and trying to get those first couple kills to scale.
Yep. All right.
I think this is really going to hurt before he gets level. Well, maybe not so much before he gets level 16. I think like this is really going to hurt kind of in like the 6 to 9 range.
Next up, for the first time in a long time, we've got some nerfs to Nasus. We've got less built-in lifesteal on his passive. A passive I'm surprised he still has in 2024, given the way the game has shifted since like he was started.
I agree. It's not a 3-hit.
And then we got 5 less damage on his Q. Yep, just...
Yeah, that's not a huge deal because, like, most of what you're getting from the Q is the stacks.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. You're going to feel the lane sustain probably a lot more with the passive.
Yeah, I think the passive is the bigger deal here.
Yep, definitely a bummer. I remember when this thing used to give him 30%.
With that said, Nasus is in such an overpowered state right now because it's so hard for any champion in the game to actually try to spike him down that these nerfs were totally justified.
Yeah, you might have noticed any game you play with me, I always ban Nasus now.
That's a good ban. Like, he is strong as hell. I've been banning Sylas in my last several sessions.
I could deal... You can deal with Sylas. Nasus is just a level of silliness that's gone out of control, you know?
Yeah, he's pretty overpowered. I mean, I play a lot of champs that can actually like CC him, keep him in place for a long time for my team to wail on. But if you don't have that, like, you cannot kill him.
Even with these changes, I'm still gonna ban Nasus nonstop.
Understandable. Yeah, he's overpowered.
Alright, next up, we've got some nerfs to Senna, which I'm sure you're over the moon about. We got 3 less
I
armor
thoroughly
and
enjoyed
then
it. And
less
these are
armor
serious
growth.
nerfs too. It's 3 less armor at level 1 and about 13 less at level 18. I love this. Senna should be easier to kill. Full stop. It's not like she's super hard to kill, but the amount of things that she can do, the support, the auto attacking at huge range, the slowing you down constantly, the utility to make her team evade things, the life steal. It's just insane. The just amount of pure damage that she can do as you're slowed. She does so many things, and it's nice that she's at least easier to kill now.
Now they need to make
As
her
they reduce
miss.
her MR as well.
Each of her miss needs to give her like 1 armor now to compensate. What do you think? Like Thresh?
I don't like that idea.
But all marksmen should get free armor. Come on.
Uh-huh.
Alright, next up we've got another head scratcher on the table. We got a big nerf to Tarek's W, despite the fact that no one's played this champion since 2012.
I actually saw someone play a champion in, I guess it was after I finished a really long session with my friends yesterday. I was watching them play a couple more, and they played against an enemy Tarek that didn't use his ultimate until like 30 minutes into the game.
I mean, you know, it's kind of really hard to decide when you should bust it, you know?
Oh yeah, every time you use it in the solo queue game, the rest of your teammates just like are already like
you. Yeah.
They started running away from the fight like 1/10 of a second ago.
Yeah, it's so hard to use effectively.
Yeah. This just sucks. Yeah, Tarek is a hard champ to use effectively. I would absolutely believe that he's probably strong enough in high-level coordinated play. But besides that, like, oof. To lose, let's say he has 250 armor. You're losing at all ranks. You're losing 7 armor that you're giving to the ally that you've bastioned. That's you know, if you're bastioning a you know, a squishy, you're giving them an extra like maybe like 4% damage reduction, at least against physical damage, 4 or 5%. That you're now not getting. That sucks.
Yep.
Poor guy.
I like him a lot more than Milo, but he's definitely in a depressing spot, I think.
Do you ever play this champion?
Tarek? I've played him a bunch of times. I used to play him a lot.
I played him for.
After I didn't play him a lot before his rework, but after he got reworked, I played him on support a bunch of times.
I played him a lot before his rework, where he had the point-and-click stun, but I also played him a fair bunch after his rework.
He was so stupid before
he's lost so much sense.
Yeah, he was so stupid before he got reworked. He's such a goofy champ.
Yeah, of course. Like, it was a good rework. It's just like some of the other like kind of game-changing ultimates. They you know, they made it just too good for high-level coordinated play, and therefore they had to keep gutting the rest of his kit, which kind of sucks. Alright, let's move on to Viego.
Less armor per level, and that's it.
Less armor growth. This will be about 8 or 9 armor at level 18 that you're losing. Viego's also a strong champ that can be very slippery and hard to kill. If you lock him down, it's easier. I'm okay with this. I do like Viego as a champ. I think he's got a lot of cool things going.
Yeah, and then a really big nerf here for Volibear. This is cooldown on his W kind of dictates his entire ability to, like, you know, survive in a team fight. This is the thing that heals him for
because he has been strong.
Well, when you W someone that you've already W'd, you heal for a massive portion of his missing health, so kind of similar to Darius' Q.
Alright.
And yeah, he's definitely been very strong. Then we got a nerf to Yone's W shred on health, magic, and physical component. This was probably fine the way it is. I don't really have much to say about this.
This is a really light touch. I don't know that I have a lot to say either, except I always like seeing Yone nerfs.
I think he's pretty balanced.
And then Yorick, I think this scales off his total AD, so it should be a nerf at all points in the game. Yorick is just a insufferable split pusher with so much power in fights as well right now. I don't think this is even enough.
Yeah, he's such a wretched champ to play against.
Yeah.
It's like a more annoying version of Singed. In fact, people just stopped playing Singed because there's way more annoying split pushers. I haven't laid against Singed in ages.
Alright. Do you mind pausing the video for a few minutes and I'll be back?
Okay.
Thanks.
Alright. Back to part 2 post Vertigo attack of patch 14.21. It's time for the biggest part of the patch, the Swain update, you could call it. This is what I was looking forward to talking to the most, as I was a huge fan of Swain before his rework, and I'm an even bigger fan of Swain since he got reworked.
A little mini rework. You know, a lot of this is just touching up the numbers, and not to bury the lead, the biggest thing that they did is give him the ability to infinitely cast Demon Flare on his ult.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah. But, yeah, let's see what this turns into. Want to start out with the stat changes?
Well, I just like to say that I consider this update that he's gotten to be completely unnecessary, and for this to be... I think he was in a very strong position before, and I consider this to just be a huge buff across the board. I know that they, nerf some things here and there, but I think the vast majority of this is just a very, just obvious nerf. I mean, buff.
You think it's an obvious buff? I'm not so sure that I agree. We'll get into it.
I don't think his stat changes is really the important thing about this. His passive scaling more linearly, I mean, that'll probably just be better overall, honestly.
Yep, I think less health regen means that he needs to means that he needs to get more of it out of his passive to to survive lane easily.
Yeah, and then essentially his Q just got a buff, and it was already pretty strong. And they didn't even touch the cooldown, which was already preposterous. So,
is this a buff? I mean, how many bolts do you normally hit with?
Well, they didn't even change that, so it's kind of inconsequential.
What I'm saying is, well, no. They like 25% of your initial hit is generally worse if you run the numbers than the extra bolt damage is giving you here.
I don't know how this is a nerf to his Q, unless I am seriously misunderstanding something.
Yeah, I mean, look at the maximum damage line. If you hit with all your bolts, for example, you're dealing, 45 less damage at rank 5. I guess with 500 AP would break even. But, that's a big ask. I think this is a very slight nerf to his Q. Obviously, costing 5 mana less is nice.
Then next up on the W, this also got a damage nerf. Or buff, I mean. The ratio went up. Now, it doesn't slow for as long.
But the slow is much, much bigger at the early ranks, and this is generally going to be your last max. So I really like what they did here. I mean, not only did they kind of make the slow a little bit more consistent and predictable, based on his rank, but they also just set the reveal duration to 6 seconds, which it didn't really make sense that it scaled with rank in this. It just made it weird to try and figure out the play patterns with once you get spotted, how long do you need to kind of wait until you can, get back into the Fog of War. I think those were very smart changes, and overall I would agree with you that just the fact that that the slow is now 50% at rank 1 is probably a buff to this skill. If Swain is kind of a while away, maybe he's coming back to lane or something, and he hits an enemy with this, it'll make it a lot easier for a jungler or even a support to kind of run down and finish a kill on someone.
Yep. And then I've already seen this post mini rework Swain a few times. Next up, we've got the E, and definitely not going to go through all this mumbo jumbo. Suffice to say, this is much faster and much more responsive. And it lost its initial damage, and now it's all front loaded into the go out effect. It only does damage once now.
Yeah, they have the maximum and the detonation. Can you explain what that is?
Well, they should be the same thing. Detonation is just the, area around the first thing that gets hit.
Oh, I see what they're doing here. Yeah, the pass-through was when it first goes out, and the detonation was when it came back or he exploded it, right?
Well, he can't choose to explode. It just blows up on the first thing that it comes through.
Uh-huh. Okay, I see what they're saying. So the maximum damage is the detonation now. They both have the same numbers and ratios. Okay. I just thought it was weird that they described it like that, but it was like that on the official patch notes as well. Having a 4-second longer cooldown at rank 1 is certainly significant. It'll make, I think support Swain considerably less annoying, even though it's a little bit easier to hit now. I might agree with you that this is a buff, especially for laner Swain. Again, with the 14-second cooldown, this is usually the second thing that you rank up, I think. I guess support Swain can rank this first.
Nah, you gotta max your Q first so you have, no dueling potential. He's just to be annoying.
Support Swain doesn't necessarily need dueling potential.
Well, you need more than just, snatching people. You gotta be able to, trade, you don't... There's a reason people max the pillar on Brand. Does the most damage.
Sure. But I think some support Swains do actually max the E.
That would be kind of silly. Maybe now it's not silly. I don't know. The only way this could have been less, or could have been more silly, is if they increased the range on this by 100. That would have been funnier. But they did make it slightly fatter, so whatever. That's it.
But overall, it's doing considerably more damage than it used to. It's a little bit easier since you don't need the pass-through. And, this is definitely a buff despite the higher cooldown on the E. So, I don't know. Do you think this is going to push him more into other lanes besides support?
No.
You don't?
I don't really think any of these changes made him better top or mid. I mean, he can get by. I think he's way in a better position to play top or mid than Galio, just by nature of his sustain and his range.
Yeah.
That he has over Galio, but I don't think it's going to help him.
He can win fights on his own for sure.
Well, as soon as he hits 6, he's not really super strong. He needs a couple items, and maybe around 11 is where he starts getting annoying. As soon as he hits 6, just because he has his ultimate, it doesn't necessarily mean he's super strong.
First item with Liandry's.
And there's a good reason why I'm going to make that argument even more so in a second here.
Yeah, I would say first item, he's a powerhouse. I actually think Swain's mid game is his best trait.
I mean, he has so much scaling. I think he can be a monster late too.
He can. He's not bad late game. I think in the ultra late game, he finally gets taken down by a lot of the ADCs that he was able to beat for most of the game. But he is certainly fine late game. I just think that his mid game, maybe level 6 through 10, not 6 through 10, first item, really kind of through everybody's second item. He is a monster.
Yeah, I really don't know what drove him to get this rework. I feel like he was sitting in a very healthy spot where he had good ratios. He was very strong, and his ultimate never timed out still. I mean, it was just...
This is something I did not read the Riot reasoning on, even though I had read a lot of the stuff on the patch since the League Wiki wasn't up. But, I don't know exactly why they decided they needed to give Swain the mini rework of all the champions that need it.
This
Maybe there was
is
just some part of his kit that was unsatisfying. Maybe it was the very frequent ease in the laning phase. I don't
this
know.
this isn't even the first mini rework he's gotten.
Correct. Yeah.
You remember his ultimate used to actually time out after like 12 or
Yeah.
20
I
seconds.
remember that.
So
That was only like 2 years ago. Yeah.
yeah,
And they gave him an infinite amount of time, and he became like one of the most played champs in League for like 2 weeks, and then nobody ever played him again.
yeah, I don't get
Yeah.
it.
So this is
He's so
interesting.
cool. He's so cool.
He's a cool champ.
And then okay, let's get into the fun stuff. Now he can recast the explodey part in his ultimate every 8 seconds. That's so crazy. I mean, I just can't believe they went there with all the minuscule changes to like his numbers to give him this. I mean, it's just such a massive boost to like his DPS, you know? It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, it's probably not that uncommon that he stays in battle for 10 consecutive seconds, but I think 18 would be pretty hard to do. And what eventually times him out? Is it the mana, or is it only him dying, or is it the soul shards?
First off, his
Uh-huh.
ultimate doesn't cost mana per second anymore. It hasn't done that in ages.
All right. So what is limiting the amount of time he can use the R? Because I know it's theoretically infinite.
It's how it's just being next to an enemy champion. He has to be draining someone.
He has to stay in combat.
Yeah, if he stops draining someone for more than like
Mm.
5 seconds, he loses his ultimate.
Right.
And then after like 10 seconds, then it gets more extreme where he has to drain someone in like 3 seconds or it drops off.
Yeah. So given his survivability, I mean, he can stay in combat. I've seen it for very long periods of time. He doesn't exactly have the best tools to chase you down if you're trying to get away from him. He's got to hit the E, and he's not very fast.
That's why you get Rylas every game, so you're just like a headache.
Absolutely.
You just can't
Absolutely.
get away.
That's usually
Man.
your second item.
I get that first every
Um,
game.
That's your first ever game?
I see
Interesting.
it just warps the game for him to have it. You know,
Yeah, but the
it makes
damage over
him.
time items as well
Yeah,
are so warping on the R. Yeah.
Sure, those are good, but Rylas on
Uh,
his ultimate just changes the game. I mean, you know,
No question about it. Yeah.
it's super strong.
Yeah, and they didn't really change the healing that he gets from Ravenous Flock.
Well, let's
fact,
get down to
making it-
there. So first off, let's talk about now they made the cooldown even more forgiving, where
Mhm.
now as soon as he starts, it just starts ticking, just like Annie's Tivers. It starts going on cooldown even.
Right, although certainly 120 seconds at rank 3, at level 16, is a lot worse than 60 after the transform ends.
Yeah, that's true.
Again, I think this is really making him a mid-game monster. Which he already was. And then the Demon Flare is going to do more base damage, but less AP. Honestly, this is pretty power neutral.
Yeah, and then I think the big takeaway is he's doing a lot less damage per second and healing a lot less per second. And then my favorite change, I mean the blowing up thing.
Doing a little bit less per second.
My
It's not-
favorite thing here is how his heal now scales with his own passive. Now his heal scales with his bonus HP, which he
Oh,
also
yeah, that's right. Every time you get the shard, you get more HP.
12
Yeah.
more. Yeah, every time you yoink someone or you W someone or someone dies next to you, you get 12 more permanent max health, like Scion or whatever.
Yeah, this is not a champion that builds a ton of extra HP though from his items. He gets some from his shards, and he's more of a drain tank. So I kind of worked the numbers with assuming he has maybe like 2,000 bonus HP, which I still think is probably a generous number.
This is busted.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like, let's say he has 2,000 bonus HP, which again I think is very generous, and let's say 500 AP, which I think is also kind of generous. He's not healing as much as he used to.
You don't tend to build them that AP heavy, and usually you only build items that give HP. I feel like the Swains that try to build too much AP, I feel like they tend to be the least successful.
I mean, you're building both, but again, Rylai's gives some, Laundries gives some. You can get one like real tank item in there with a Swain build. But yeah, just picture like 2,000 bonus HP, and you want to say 400 AP instead for the sake of argument. Um,
Yeah,
so
3 or 400.
yeah, before this chain, you had 40 plus 72 based on your AP, so that's 112 heal per second. Now you're getting 45 plus 20 plus 25 from your bonus HP. So that's down to 90 per second, even in, I think, a pretty generous scenario for the bonus HP. You're getting a little bit less heal, but I mean, look, just the fact that you can use the Demon Flare, deal the damage, get the bonus healing from your Ravenous Flock from dealing the damage.
Or I see Heartsteals in this guy's future.
Oh, really?
Well, now that they've given something that literally
Yeah.
scales with his max HP, instead of just giving him max HP,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a match made in heaven now.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to use your own point against you, which is that if you want to build Heartsteel, you have to build it first.
Oh, yeah.
Swain is not the type of champion that necessarily is even going to be able to proc the Heartsteel really easily. He wants to be fighting from a few hundred range. He doesn't want to be fighting from 0 range.
Well, that's when his Q does the most damage.
Oh yeah, I guess he has the range on his attacks. But first of all, Heartsteel does less for ranged champions. And then second of all, like you said, like
Doesn't give you less, though.
Rylai's, or like I said, the early like damage over time items are so core to Swain becoming a monster in the mid game that I don't think he's going to be able to fit the Heartsteel in there first. I just don't think. I think people will try it. I just think that they're going to have much less success than they do with his current core items.
First, I don't think you need all the dot items for Swain to be good.
I think your first two items, though, have to either both be dot items or has to be Rylai's and a dot. If it were possible to build Heartsteel third, like I could see a Warmog Swain becoming more of a thing than Heartsteel.
Oh, no, that he doesn't need. Yeah.
I think that would be a better use of the bonus HP bonus. Because Heartsteel is just like, first of all, this 1.25% really is a pretty pathetic ratio. And second of all, it's just the fact that you need to build Heartsteel first. I think you're delaying his core build by far too much if you're trying to fit 3,000 gold in for that first. Sorry, man. I'm gonna have to take a shit on your interesting but crazy theory.
I'm definitely going to try it.
All right.
Alright, that does it for the champ change. Let's talk about some runes. We've got a more powerful Letho Tempo for melee champions. We're slowly getting back there. Now we got 6 times whatever the hell stacks, which is better than it was.
Yeah, I guess the on hit really didn't compensate for what it was giving you before.
Yeah.
Which is a much faster attack speed.
Then we got a pretty big nerf to Blade of the Ruined King. It's crazy how much this item has fluctuated. I mean, it was just like a year and a half ago where melee people got 12% from this.
Yeah.
Now we're going 10, and now we're fucking poverty 8.
Yeah, so the reason you nerfed this is because all the other on-hit type of items got nerfed in the last few patches. Kraken, remember, took a huge hit, for example. So this was just outshining all of those. You're gonna have the champions that built like both of those types of items, though, like really being hurt by this, because this, at least they had the Bork to go to first. Now even the Bork isn't good.
I'll say.
Yeah, and then Sork shoes, which outshine the other boots, which were all nerfed so badly in the last patch. Going down to 12 magic pen at the 800 upgrade cost that it costs from the regular boots. Yep. I guess still probably the best thing if you're like a mage without a lot of utility.
It's only a couple of months ago these gave 18 magic pen.
Yeah, I remember that.
I still think you just basically just don't even have a choice,
With a lot of champions, right? Yeah.
Even if this gave like 10, you'd still take it.
There may be some champs that provide like some utility that you're looking at. Okay, maybe at 12, I don't really need this. I could go for more AP or pen items and then build the lucidity boots. But if you're just like an all damage mage, right? This is still your only good pick.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you got the Zerkreeves that I don't think got nerfed in the last couple patches, and they have that really powerful upgrade for the end game.
Yeah, I feel like they should have gave every pair of boots something like that, just to
That would have been really cool, yeah.
just to dream
like, so,
towards.
if you have a lot of money at the end of the game, to
Yeah.
you have something to spend it on besides just a stupid potion.
Yeah, that was a big oversight, I think.
I mean, it's cool that they did it in the first place, but yeah, they should definitely. If they're not going to give it to every item, they should definitely give it to both Sork Shoes and the Zerkreeves. To say, like, we value AP carries in the late game, too.
Alright. I'm just going to let you walk through what you think is important. I don't really have a huge opinion on any of this stuff.
Okay. I don't have huge opinions either way, but these are kind of interesting and definitely worth knowing in the game. So what they've basically done with the bounties this patch, is that instead of having specific bounties, 150, 300, 450, whatever, based on kill streaks or based on minion leads, instead they're doing all the bounties based on how much gold you have compared to the rest of the gold in the game, or at least the rest of the gold on the enemy team. I'm not sure which one it is. But that's kind of the simplest way to say it. It's based on how much gold you've earned from all sources, including kills, including minions, including bounties, like objective bounties. The only sources of gold that don't count are champion-specific ones, like Gangplank's or TF's passive. And so, basically, if you are ahead in gold, there's going to be a bounty on your head, and it's going to be a steady stream of bounty, from 1 gold still up to 700 gold. So it's not going to be these very quantum 150, 300, 450 amounts. It's going to be based on the basket of all the gold you've earned, and it's going to essentially be, I think, like, for every, like, 4 excess gold you've earned, you get a 1 gold bounty on your head. Yeah, so it's possible to get killed, and the opponent gets a 23 gold bounty in addition to the 300 gold for the kill. But they started announcing it as a shutdown and put it on the scoreboard at 150 gold.
So is there like a cap on this? Or can you have bounties of like 1,500 or something?
You can, but you only get the 700 gold for each kill, right? And then, like, your next life will also have a bounty on it. Kind of like it is now. Like, you can have 1,000 gold bounty, but I think the payout is only 700.
Okay.
Yeah. The other major changes are to objective bounties. They'll fall off a little bit quicker. It tends to be a little bit easier again at objective bounty, but they're worth a little bit less. And the grubs can now contribute. I assume that means, like, if you slay the final grub, that can be an objective bounty if you're way behind. Yeah, negative bounties. They also took away, like, if you've had like 10 deaths and then you get 1 kill, you don't reset your gold completely. It's again based on the amount of gold that you're behind in the game. So if you're way behind in gold, like you get chain ganked and the enemy team kills you once, you don't reset to 300 gold. You'll still be worth less than usual.
All right.
Yeah, that's pretty much like the summary of the changes they made. I think these are all kind of like smart changes. I don't think they're going to change the game that much.
Well,
but I think it's
What do you think will be the impact of these changes, and why bother changing it?
I think the biggest impact really is just kind of smart changes around. You don't have places where, for example, like somebody is behind in minions, but managed to get a few kills in a row and now has a big bounty on their head and can award more gold to the other team. I think this actually, like, puts bounties more in line with the intention of what they were supposed to do in the first place, which is serve as a fair comeback mechanic That one player on a team that's behind can get fed. Um, that was essentially like there were times where a team was not behind and a player was getting fed off of these bounties which shouldn't have been there in the first place. Just based on the way that like a kill streak worked or based on the way they were farming. And I think that this is just basically an overall fair way to do it. I don't think it's gonna do a lot in your average game, but there were games that were kind of like a little bit like statistical outliers in terms of like what a champion was doing, that they ended up having a bounty where they shouldn't. And I think that's kind of the biggest impact that it's gonna do. I also think in general, comebacks are going to be slightly easier with this new system than they were with the old bounty system. I think you're going to have slightly more comebacks in the game. I don't think it's going to make the games longer. It's just going to make them a little bit swingier.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't have strong opinions about this, but I
Yeah.
think overall I'm feeling positive about it. I think this is a smart systems change.
Reminds me of when they changed armor pen to lethality or cooldown reduction of ability haste. Another what the hell's the matter?
Ability haste is one of the best things they've ever done.
Yeah, I know, you're a prophet.
Jay Stradamus.
Alright. Just making sure they didn't nerf Swain and ARAM to compensate for these changes. Okay.
It did finally give Soraka that slight ARAM buff, but it's not the one she needed.
Yeah, I hate that supports are so weak in ARAM.
Yeah, I mean they were so good, and they decided, oh, we don't like supports being good here or anywhere. Let's make sure we nerf the hell out of their ability to protect other champions.
You know, in URF, they have a scaling nerf where at the beginning of the game you start off with all of your like outgoing heals and shields are like, I don't know what it starts at. It's like 10 or 20% is effective. And then the
Okay.
longer the game goes on, the nerf lessens until they're just 1-for-1.
Okay, that's reasonable because it would be. I do remember when Earth was like first coming out, they didn't have the like those specific buffs and nerfs, not only champion specific but system specific. I do remember at the beginning of the game, and only at the beginning of the game, the support champions being able to use their skills every 2 or 3 seconds was insane. Yeah.
Good times.
So that actually sounds like pretty smart, but yeah, it sucks that they have to like do all these weird specific things in ARAM. And it sounds like even, or it seems like even when they make those changes, often they don't get it right. Why is it going to help Soraka to take 97% damage instead of 100? What she needs is an outgoing healing buff.
Yeah.
Oh well. Overall, yeah, like, a couple head scratchers on this patch, but the Swain rework is kind of cool. I think some of the champions that they gave buffs to, needed and deserved it. And yeah, again, like I'm pretty positive on this change to the bounty system.
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent. I feel like it's just another thing that's been the same too long, so they have to change it. Yeah.
It is weird, like
Same old
slaying
song.
someone and getting an extra 23 gold for it.
I was hoping that there was going to come some point in time where a bounty could get like really ridiculous if someone was like, doing stupid well for a really long time and didn't die or something. But you said that you can only ever get as most 700?
For a single kill, you can develop a bigger bounty than that, but they would need to kill you twice.
I don't remember seeing there that it limited the payout somewhere.
I mean, it's always been like that. It's always limited the payout to 700 gold, which is 1,000 gold for a single kill, not even counting the assists.
Alright.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for patch 14.21. This patch is about 3 days late now, so whatever. We'll see you
Look,
guys
man, better
next
late
time.
than never. Like, got to get our thoughts out there into the world.